and run, hide, or fight. Let's get right to NBC investigative correspondent Tom Winter, who is tracking developments. Tom, what are you hearing?
Sure, Lester, exactly as you laid out. And right now, our understanding from law enforcement in Las Vegas and from what they are saying publicly is they are going from building to building, room to room, to search for any potential additional victims. At this point, they believe that the shooter, as you said, the suspected shooter in this incident is down and is now deceased. But that doesn't mean that they're going to stop their searches at this point, given the fact that, as you reported, there appear to be multiple scenes. So there are some indications from multiple senior law enforcement officials who've been briefed on the matter that on top of the suspect who appears to be deceased, that there's at least one other individual who is deceased and that there are a number of victims, as you said, and as police have now stated publicly. What we don't know yet is why this all happened. We don't know if this involves students, involves staff, or both, and that's something that we're going to continue to follow here. And of course, the ultimate why is why anybody would do that. And given the tensions that we've seen in Israel and in the Middle East, given the heightened state of awareness that law enforcement agencies across the country, including in big cities and areas with large campuses, have seen over the past several months since Hamas executed their terrorist attack against Israel on October 7th. There's always the question of terrorism. And Lester, right now, everything that we're being told by officials is just too early to say why all this may have happened this afternoon. But undoubtedly, a city that unfortunately is too familiar with active shooters, with one of the worst in modern American history having occurred several years ago at a concert there. They have suffered yet another tragedy.
All right, Tom, thank you. I'll ask you to stand by. We are starting to hear from students who were on campus talking about what they heard and saw during all this.
And where exactly were you all at when you guys heard about this active shooters?
We were next door. We were directly next door.
And then police just told you all to get out as much as fast as possible.
So we heard loud shouting, immediate panic. Everyone dropped down to the floor, loud shouting, until they told us, hey, it's cops. No one told us that it was cops at the very beginning. We just knew that there were people. So they evacuated us out.
About 30 minutes after, we were in lockdown for about 30 minutes until we got evacuated.
And you guys were in classes doing a class presentation, you were saying?
Yeah.
We were, yeah.
What's going through your mind?
200. Yeah, it was a bunch of poster boards kind of around a ballroom on the second floor. So it felt like a large target, and it was kind of a little overwhelming thinking if they got in.
90% windows, not a lot of wall to hide behind. So that was quite concerning.
And that's kind of what you want to avoid, but we had no other option.
Yeah.
What's the feeling right now?
Relief.
Yeah, happy that he is. I think we heard that he's detained. Happy that he's detained. Not sure if is a second shooter or not. Hopefully that one's detained as well. We're just glad to be out of it. Glad to be on our way home.
Yeah, seeing the cops go the other direction makes it feel a little better that they're not here anymore.
All right, some of the students giving us their initial impressions of what they saw. We should note again, police are saying the suspect is deceased. Let me bring in Jim Cavanaugh. He's an NBC News law enforcement analyst and a retired ATF special agent in charge. Jim, every time we cover these, I'm struck by how people who are wrapped up in these things know what to do. They've heard run, hide, fight. That message went out at one point today to people on the campus there. And it must change the job of law enforcement officers responding, knowing that people sort of know what to do.
Right, and these young women were very smart. They were alert. They listened to the warnings. They assessed their surroundings. Like they said, they had a lot of windows. They knew that was a danger. They, locked down for 30 minutes and evacuated. So they were very smart, and that's what everybody has to do. And unfortunately, in America, that's what a lot of our citizens do. But it's your last chance when somebody's marauding with firearms on a murder spree.
There is a reporter, we're hearing now that there is no sign of a second suspect, but a lot of the activity we see, I assume, is looking for just that possibility in a case like this.
You always have to do it, Lester. We always have to look and see if there's a conspirator. Sometimes there is, like Columbine had two. But of course, they ascribe to Nazi philosophy. It's hard to get some person to, join into your mass killing fantasy. Unless you're part of some kind of organized terror group or movement, then you can have multiple shooters, usually. But when it's just one person who just wants to seek revenge or has some kind of mental issue or a revenge issue, it's hard to enlist someone else for that. So most of these are single people, but if it lapses into terror or Nazism or hate crimes, then sometimes you can have multiple shooters.
And as we said from the top, we don't have a confirmation of how many casualties there may be linked to all this. But I would think that becomes a problem set of its own, making sure that you know where your potential victims are, where this person was.
Right. When you get dispatched to these things, it's chaos all around. It's the fog of war for the patrol officers getting there. They're laser focused on locating the active killer. And here we have one moving, Lester, between buildings. He was in this Beam student building, and then he went to the student union. By all the witness reports. And we've seen that before. We saw it at Virginia Tech. So when they start moving around these large urban campuses, it makes it more difficult for the police because they're chasing behind the killer. And we don't know if he killed himself or the police killed him or even somebody else killed him. But at least it's over, and now we can deal with the aftermath.
Yes, Jim Kavanaugh, thanks. And we'll continue to ask those questions and many others and bring you the answers as we get them. For now, that concludes this NBC News special report. More coverage ahead on our streaming channel, NBC News Now, and online at NBCnews.com. I'll be back with more tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Lester Holt in New York. Good day, everyone.